Bible, God's inspired word, says there came a sound from heaven, and that's the sound we need. The truth, present truth that can set you free.
Have you ever seen yourself as a mediocre person? Do you have the guts to admit it? Do you have the courage to say, yes, I've been mediocre? In fact, maybe you've been lukewarm just recently, and maybe it's still hanging on. I want to say, friends, that mediocrity, or maybe I could call it lukewarmness, is number one, indigestible. Number two, it's visible. It's visible not only to Jesus, but in Revelation chapter 3, we see that it's visible to the world. He says, you don't know your true condition. You're poor, miserable, wretched, blind, and naked. Naked. How many know that if you're naked, people can tell? If you don't have any clothes on, that's pretty visible, not just to Christ, but to the world. Do you know that the world sees through the church sometimes like a lace curtain? You know that? Sometimes the world can see just what we are. How do you know that? How do you know they can see through it? Because we are imitating them. We are wanting to be like them. You can see it. Let me just say it this way. The church is going one direction, and the world is going the opposite direction. Is that true? Come on, is it true? I think you know it is. Well, the world will be consistent. And if the church will be consistent, the world and the church will become farther apart, not closer together. So when they get closer together, guess who compromised? Guess who became mediocre? Guess who changed? It wasn't the world. The world is consistent. And if the church will be consistent, it will get farther away, not closer together. I think that's something that the world can see. A.W. Tozer made a statement. He said this, the weak admire the strong. He said, the poor admire the rich. And he says, when that happens, they imitate them. He said, so because they admire them, they imitate it. The poor imitate the rich. The weak imitate the strong. I used to do that when I was a kid, try to imitate the strong. Friends, God's not buying it. But you know what? The church admires the world. How do you know? Because it imitates it. And whenever we imitate something, they say that imitation is the highest form of flattery. Oh, I know you may not like this, Pastor. I know it may not be sitting well with you, parishioner. But can we not face ourselves once in a while? Can we not come down to the place where we look ourselves in the eye, in the mirror of God's word, and be truthful for once? And say, you know what? There are times when I have allowed this world to creep into my life. My pastor used to say, first you tolerate something, then you admire it, then you conform to it. I know that that is a true thing. May I not allow the world to creep in to where I begin to imitate it, but may I imitate Christ. Friends, a lukewarm church is not only indigestible, but it is visible. Visible to who? To Jesus and to the world. But it's also resistible. Oh, I like that. A lukewarmness is resistible. You don't have to give in to this. You can resist it. How can you resist it? Well, number one, we can resist it by looking at what's at stake. You know what's at stake? Heaven, hell, eternity, life, death. That's what's at stake. It's time to preach against sin. It's time to come clean. It's time to say that His word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my pathway. This lukewarmness is resistible. How? By looking at what's at stake. Come to grips with this. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? It's time for the church to get back to the word and preach it without compromise. And let's make God happy.
For more information, visit us online at acertainsound.com.